Good morning, Vietnam. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst of Everything. Whatever, I don't know what to even call it. What a pleasure it is to have survived long enough to present this edition of Top Worst Things. My name is Dwayne Pipe. Dwayne Pipe. What a pleasure it is to be here. And today we got a very special edition of Top 10 Worst Ofs that I've got for you. I'm so excited. I can hardly wait. I can hardly contain myself, which is the same thing that I think about every time I try to pull my pants on. Up. Hey, before we get to the deliciousness, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the top 10 worst of, I'm obligated to enunciate some disclaimers. Number one, I am profoundly nuts. I mean, out there, the stratosphere, there's no... the synapses are firing, but no one's home. There's just nothing going on that makes any sense anymore to me. I cannot be trusted or relied upon. So if I say, like so-and-so it has a Richard Nixon killed JFK, if I say something like that, I can't be held responsible because of the nuttiness and the fruit cakery that's going on in my bakery. And I cannot be relied upon. So if you're hearing something that might seem a little questionable to you, I have a recommendation for you. Look it up for yourself, you freaking lazy schmuck. Number two, I'm not partisan. I'm not down with that. Not to coin too many Yiddish words in a single introduction, I'm not down with that mishigas, okay? It's divide and conquer, it's Machiavelli 101. There is no such thing as right and left wing, just as much as there is no such thing as, Gen X and Gen Z. It's all arbitrary bulldank came up with by PsyOps pros who are looking to try to dehumanize us and get us fighting amongst ourselves so we don't see that the only real divide in the human condition is between the haves and the have-nots. Because billionaires are not human beings. They're monsters. They don't live and have imagination. Oops. Gosh, what the... Sorry. It was a little roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd. Sorry, it says occupational hazard of wearing grease paint, mustache, and goatee compliment. Occasionally you get it all over yourself. Anyway, where was I before this rude interruption? Now look at my hair. What's left of it is all messed up. Like anybody could tell. There we go. Cover my little receding hairline just a tiny little bit. People are just so incredibly, oblivious, I think, to the fact that the creatures that occupy the billionaire position in the billionaire class have no empathy, no ability to be able to feel, no ability to love, no ability to be able to dream and aspire to something. All they have is this sort of impulse to hurt things and kill things and destroy things and gobble up everything they can of every available asset. And that's their conception of joy, is to see good people suffer. And it's, the sooner you get that through your thick skulls, the better off you're going to be. Because they control everything in our lives and in our world. And it includes music, comedy, and TV, and movies, and politics, and the mainstream news medias, and alt medias, all of them, everything. They're all paid for by the same guys, and it's some, like, creepy little billionaire bookkeeper guy who's like, okay, we'll take it number one, carry the three, carry the four, the team, third. They're all nutso. Even more nutso than I am. It's a pathogen. They're disease. They have some kind of crazy disease that makes them incapable of feeling anything besides greed and a wanton drive and desire to create wanton destruction of everything around them in order to be able to have, what resembles joy to them, which is the suffering of others. So I'm trying to create a movement here where everybody loves everybody and everybody together equally, singing Kumbaya and getting carted off into the South American detainment centers while they release an advanced form of COVID to create an airborne gas chamber and exterminate the human race and replace us with AI robots. It's going to happen any day now. Any day now, you're going to look up, knock, 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 who's there? A Culligan man, or it's Avon calling, or something to that effect. Pizza delivery. And you'd be like, oh, okay. And you open the door, and it's going to be the Brute Squad from Princess Bride. And they're going to, do a search your house and gather everybody up and ship you off in a cattle car down to South America. What do you think, really, that the billionaires, you've seen these billionaires, right? You see them in action a little bit here and there, dribs and drabs, and whatnot. You think that they're really going to pay out $8 billion monthly universal basic income checks to everybody on planet Earth to sit around and do nothing while the AI robots do all the work? Elon Musk is even going like, oh, well, yeah, sure, yeah, the AI robots are going to do all the work, but people don't need to worry about their retirement or anything like that. They can just sit tight and chill out, and the AI robots will provide for everyone, including, like the extermination of the human race. And it's just, it has to, at this point, it's like inevitable. Unless we can somehow, I don't know, some kind of miracle or something like that. So here I am talking about miracles, and what the miracle at hand is this top 10 list. A top 10 worst of today's, again, truly special and inspired top 10 worst list is the top 10 worst, most white bread bands of all time. Now, I've been trying to focus a little bit on music because I love music, and I think that can provide a lot of inspiration for us in the final days of the human race, and maybe cheer us up. So we're not so glum when they come to round us up. But I'm not one for compromise. Okay, I've been a musician all my life, and there's all sorts of garbage. They replaced, going back to something around 1970, they started to implement the plan, a twofold plan. Number one, to purge all of the most expressive, creative people and they started doing it in the mid-1950s at the outset of rock and roll, where they, all of a sudden, all the rock and rollers, the progenitors of rock and roll, all just started dropping like flies. Elvis gets enlisted into the army, and he's emasculated by shaving off his hair and putting him in a military outfit. And people are like, oh my God, that's the king of rock and roll? Charles Nelson Riley? Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, Big Bopper died in a plane crash. Eddie Cochran dies in a car crash where I think Gene Vincent is in the car with him, and he's like sort of permanently whacked out, freaked out by it, is never the same. And then you get to Ray Charles is busted for drugs, and Chuck Berry is busted on the Mann Act. Little Richard is threatened so much because of his flamboyant, sort of ebullient style, and lyrics that say will ball tonight and stuff like that. I mean, think about it. Back in those days, even the people in the North were all like closeted, borderline Klansmen. Here comes Little Richard around talking about bawling girls stuff on white radio. Oh my God. Alan Freed's life is destroyed with the payola scandal. And then you get, at the same time, you've got the politics going with the House Un-American Activity Committee and the Hollywood 10. All those progressives and leftward leaning people are all getting purged out of the mainstream media and out of society at the same time. So you got, James Dean is killed in a really weird car wreck where no one else even gets hurt. And then you've got Sam Cooke dies right around that time. Before you know it, all of them are replaced. All of those really transcendent rockers from that era are all replaced by a bunch of doo-wop groups. And I'm, it's too late in the day for us to do much about it. But the fact of the matter is that this was all, as far as I'm concerned, intentional. This was the response of the ruling elite that has been in charge of civilization since the beginning of civilization. This is how they responded to the threat. They purged everybody. Everybody who's, they blacklisted the Weavers, who had the, Goodnight Irene, which is the biggest song of all time up until that point. Just whitewashed everybody with this sterilized doo-wop stuff. And then they did it again at the end of the 60s, where they purged everybody from the Byrds to the Beatles. And they had, replaced them again in the 70s, where you got rid of Hendrix and Joplin and the Doors and all that. And you replace them with Foghat and Bad Company. All these suburbanite nobodies with nothing, revelatory to talk about, or nothing, no charisma, just sort of dried out white bread sandwiches with white bread instead of, bologna with mayonnaise on white bread. And that's the trajectory of what happened with music. And so, as time went on, they helped themselves out. They eliminated all the small labels. They bought them all up, consolidated all that stuff, so they only have to worry about a few managers, and they got them all to be compliant, or they threatened their wives and stuff like that. Who knows how much of that, they had to do in order to be able to get everybody on the same page to turn the sort of cultural apparatuses into a third-party outsourced propaganda ministry, where they were intentionally brainwashing all of us to be, compliant, servile robots, and killed off Bob Dylan and replaced him with a body double, and then pretended, they distracted everybody. To throw him off the scent of, just obvious. This guy didn't look that much like Bob Dylan, didn't sound like him at all, didn't write it in music that wasn't even close. And people started to get wise, and they said, oh, Paul McCartney's dead. And they spread this rumor all throughout the world, and everybody was like, wow, Paul McCartney's dead. And all of a sudden, everybody in the world within an hour knows all these various different things, like, the sound in Revolution Number 9 is supposed to be the actual sound of his car crash where he's burning up alive and stuff like that. Super incredibly dumb stuff that everybody's like sucking up like it's some organic rumor that just, would have taken years for an organic rumor to spread like that with all the stupidity of it. But within a day, everybody's on the same page. Paul McCartney's dead? Really? And this body double? Wow. But what they were doing was just all a smokescreen to cover up for Bob Dylan, who was actually replaced. And people were starting to get like, wow, this is just too weird. And they were just, they just could only kill off so many people, could only ruin so many people before people started to really kind of figure it out of what they were facing. But they never really did, because they kept, one step ahead of them and kept shifting the ways that they were disposing of the bodies. And that's what happened to music. And then eventually, when they consolidated the business side of it, they also, brought in they could create trends where they would have, Robert Stigwood would help them to initiate a disco initiative where they artificially popularized disco because they owned all the radio stations. They had all the owners in their pocket, and they had all the owners of the record labels in their pocket. And they just say, this is the new disco initiative. This is what we're going to have you do. And then that whitewashed music some more. And then they had artificially made the Beach Boys #1 again with all their crappy 50s songs and stuff. And they released those albums and made everybody overly glamorize the 50s. And then Happy Days came in and redefined the 50s as being the happy days. Wow, that's when everybody in the planet and Earth and the solar system were experiencing their happiest days. It was back in suburban Milwaukee in the middle of the 50s with nobody of color anywhere in sight. Then it went. They tried to do an urban cowboy thing with trying to glamorize that white trash a subcultural thing, and then then it was MTV. And before with all of that, America became sterilized. Our cultural mechanisms, and music especially, which was so liberating, they decided to use that tool of music, which had liberated so many minds earlier, to cloister everybody again and get them all turned in on themselves, so that they destroyed our imaginations, destroyed our individuality, destroyed our sort of vibrant nature, and turned us into a bunch of surface-minded phonies. And that's what this list is today. Top 10 worst, most white bread bands of all time. And so, this is mostly going to be like old school stuff. Take a look at me. Does it look like I'm, capable of singling out all the most white bread acts of today's day and age? All you really got to do is turn on country radio. Country radio, I'm not, going to be like the same type of person who says, I love every type of music except country. Country is, has some interesting aspects to it, because it's the only style of music where people are actually playing real instruments. So you get the occasional song that's, it's kind of jamming musically, but they also, in addition to the endemic racism and stuff like that, and now you get a secondary problem of superficial phonies like Beyonce co-opting country music somehow. And I've listened to that album. It's a needle dropper. There's just, instead of a panty dropper, which are all my albums are. No, it's a needle dropper because you can only handle like 5 seconds of the song before you start to before it drives you insane and sucks all the life out of you. It's like the succubus version of music. And I listened to it and I'm like, this isn't country. This isn't nothing. This is like sterilized, pre-chewed garbage that somebody puked out of a computer and threw a bunch of vocals on the top of and said, here's Country Carter or whatever, and got her $1 million cowboy outfit. Took a picture of her. It's just the stupidest looking thing. I hate, and it's not just Beyonce, look, I hate all of those like elaborate outfits that people wear at all these Met Galas and stuff like that. I'm like, do you go to work in that? Why are you spending all this money on these threads that you're going to wear once and dump in the garbage, and you can't even walk around or anything in it, and you just like look like a total jerk off? Who would subject themselves to this stupidity? Right? It just probably goes part and parcel with the jerk-offs that they get to be stars, that they manufacture into stars these days. That's all they do it for. They do it for the big, elaborate garb and all the ego inflation that they get along with it. The superficiality of these punks that are selling out humanity just to have this big long cowboy Carter garb and the giant long white hair wig weave, whatever the hell it is. It's just, what's the, get on with it? And this isn't a fashion show. It's supposed to be music. If you want to have a fashion show, that's great. Have a fashion show. Have the fashion awards, and go to town. I'm sure there's tons of people now who are so dehumanized that you get more viewers than you would if you had the Grammys that were for actual musicians and people who are actually playing with passion, expressing themselves with passion, belting out tunes and stuff like that. They're all over the place. They've just been so marginalized and so kicked to the curb over so many years that they're dying a slow death in small little dive bars and stuff like that, or little tiny festivals and whatnot, trying to, stay true to their own creative impulses. And they're out there like crazy. It's impossible to find them through all the white noise of the millions and millions of sellouts and sort of like ephemeral types that don't have anything really deep or meaningful to express. But they are out there. So, you could actually have a Grammys that was all about music and get the fashion show out of music. Just have Lady Gaga go on tour and have 12 different outfit changes and just walk down the aisle. Have some actual, music playing behind her. They don't have the whole lip syncing circus and all that bullink. And she just walks out and she shows off the outfit and she, coughs on some of her fans and gives them COVID, because she did, this, a few stops on a tour where she had full-on COVID, and she also, in part of that show, she would interact one-on-one with various audience members while she's got full-on COVID. It just, walk down the aisle. Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, all those guys, it's stuff that's just like boring ass garbage, has nothing to do with authentic music. It's just putting together a bunch of riffs with a computer and having somebody who knows who sing the tracks, and then you have the track playing behind you and you sing a little bit alongside of it when you feel up to it in between like dance moves and costume changes. And that's what music is. So I don't mind. That's what it is. But, confine it to Vegas. Or as I've said before, Reno, which is where that stuff I believe really belongs, and give music back to the public. I almost said give music back to the Irish. This is a really obscure reference to a Paul McCartney song from 1971. Give Ireland back to the Irish. But anyway, I digress. So number 10 of the top 10 worst, most white bread bands of all time, it's got to be Journey. Right? And, I've got to be very careful about this. Journey is, it started off, I think it's the first two albums, maybe a little bit of the third album, if I remember correctly, where they were a jam. You had Neil Sean, who was a great guitar player. You had Greg Raleigh, and they were doing mostly instrumentals on those first couple albums. And it was a good jam. And there was like, a couple of guys out of Santana's band right at the peak of Santana when they split off, and so they, but then they got that guy with the hair and the, Dennis DeYoung sounding voice or whatever, and he came in and did all this white bread nonsense, and turned that band into just the worst form of, it's like if you could put like a mayonnaise sandwich on white toast with a side order of mayonnaise, it would be, it would have more guts than the music of Journey in like, that middle section there, and they're coming up with all the hits, Stone in Love and all of them. And gosh, it's total garbage. And I hated Journey back when it was happening more than anything ever. It just was so, and they played it so much and was all encompassing. Journey everywhere you turned. And just nothing garbage. Anyway, but I'm not here to just bash away at all these, dehumanized drones and just be negative about the whole thing. I'm here on a mission of mercy to try and head you off at the pass before you make the mistake of listening to any more Journey in your life. Especially those middle years, there was Steve Perry. That's who it was. I've got an alternative choice for you with some blood and guts music that really has some passionate conviction, expression, humanity in it, some deep, meaningful, hearty, thick, chunky music. So don't get the Journey. Instead, as I'd mentioned, get the Santana. Where two of the only two guys who, Neil Sean is actually really, I don't know if you've seen the post plastic surgeon Neil Sean, but it is creepy. But Neil Sean back in the day when he had that big giant afro, biggest afro in music, right after Sly Stallone sort of left the scene. Neil Sean, he was the number 2. It was the understudy for biggest afro in rock, and he could wail. And Santana was, a monster throughout most of his career. He was just so incredibly intense and had such great bands and such groove, man. Especially in the early days, the first Santana group with Michael Shreve on drums, and on the third album, which is the one I'm recommending, Santana 3. Neil Sean joins in, so you get Greg Rowley and Neil Sean, two fifths of Journey, in with on top of it Santana and Michael Shreve and this amazing rhythm section and just the tastiest band, thick, emotive, juicy, with a profound amount of hair on its nads. And that's the album you should get. Get down with Santana 3. And it doesn't have, it has 1 or 2 recognizable songs on there, but not as played to death as Black Magic Woman and Oya Como Va. So it's not going to, sort of like, oh, this again. It's not played out like the earlier 2 Santana albums are in little bits and pieces. Great albums, don't get me wrong. And there's a lot of Santana out there, really. Santana is so underrated. I would love to find in your life that after having listened to Santana 3, that you just open up that door and go nosing around to see all the other tasty tidbits that Carlos Santana has brought forth on planet Earth. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, amazing guy, and music, and blows Journey out of the water. It's not even, it's like almost like Journey's not even playing music. It's like they're just sort of going through the motions. It's like the Country Bear Jamboree compared to Santana and Santana 3. Number 9 of the top worst, most white bread bands of all time, gotta be Asia. I bought Asia, and I was like so excited. I mean it. I'm not even kidding. I loved a lot. I loved Yes, and the constituent parts of Asia. I thought John Wetton was great with Crimson and with Roxy music, and UK. Which was a British prog rock band. And I was, Carl Palmer was, as far as I'm concerned, I was a big fan of certain albums of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. But the guy, was just a whaler. Jeff Downes, whatever, Buggles. But those other 3 guys, man, all together in one group, and I was just you know, all juiced at the prospect of listening down to this album. I got it, you know, and brought it home, and I listened to it, and it was so freaking trite and horrible and bland that I took it out and burned it. I burned Asia. I was so disappointed and crestfallen. And I didn't have a lot of money back in those days. I was eating, you know, not ketchup soup, but I was having my dealio was noodles with tuna and mustard was my go-to. But I bought it and I hated it and burned it. That's really, I mean, Asia, a lot of people like think, oh, Asia? Really? That album is so rock? And everybody's like, bang, 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 like a bunch of bobblehead dolls listening to Asia. There's an to be so much to you, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, no. I mean, it's just like perfect music. You're driving to the mall in the middle of a suburb, and you got lots of cash from Mummy and Tashi to blow at the record store, and you got your best gal hanging on the side of your car in great deal of distress because you're a passive-aggressive nobody, suburbanite jerk-off white boy. And get Asia pumped up, and you're like, oh man, I can't get any better. I have a replacement for you, of course. I'm here to save anybody else or try to from exposing themselves to the Asia flu, the Asia virus. What do they call that thing? The insult thing, the Wuhan something. They had some derisive name for the COVID back in those. I can't remember, but I'm trying to like reconfigure the target for that derision to Asia the band instead of Asia the subcontinent. Or that wasn't subcontinent, Asia proper. Anyway, so much for that joke. Ooh, that took a lot of steam out of the wow, a biorhythmic low right in the middle of this whole amazing. So anyway, number 9 for the replacement of Asia, much better album to listen to is from a band called Utopia, called Adventures in Utopia, and that's a band, a side project really of Todd Rundgren, who at the time was like releasing a couple of really hot solo albums, had some hits with Hello It's Me and a couple others, and somehow, for some reason, the album they did to follow up with Hello It's Me, and he decided to go into like a tangent. He did Wizard of True Star was his next solo album after Something Anything, I think it was called, which was really out there. I mean, like a real hodgepodge of diverse, very intrinsically intense music. And right around the same time, he forms a band called Utopia, and they do this album that's just full-on prog rock and really good, and the vocals are amazing. And it's got a lot of intrinsic, virtuosity in it, both vocally, songwriting-wise, musicianship-wise. And it's an awful lot better for you than Asia, just pounding out the power chords that sound so plastic and contrived. Pick up Utopia, take it home, love it long, love it, like the way music will love you back, instead of just music that just pounds your brain into a putty. Number 8, Train. Now, Train, is a band that's so easy to hate. I be honest, I don't know a lot about Train. It's the type of thing that I try to avoid, like the plague. I do know this one song that they did that turned me off to them when I first heard it. It was just like, what the hell is this garbage? 50 Ways to Kill Your Lover, I think it's called. And this song, not only is it sort of derivative of Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, but it goes on about a guy who is a loser, can't get a date, and he tells all his friends that he's got a girlfriend, and at some point it comes time for the friends to meet the girlfriend, and people are like, why come you never bring your girlfriend around, dude? And so and this is the plot of the song, he makes up an excuse that she died. And so that's where the whole idea of 50 Ways to Kill Your Lover comes in. And it goes on and on. Like it happens, like in the song, it happens like 3-4 times probably. And I'm thinking, I'm like listening to the song, like, oh, not only is this song stupid, but I'm just dulled down, dumb music, stupid lyrics, everything like that. But the whole idea within the song of telling people that your girlfriend has died. How many times do you really get to do that before your friends start to think, what the hell is going on with this guy and his dying girlfriend? Twice? It goes on and on. It's coming up with 50 different ways to kill her. How long does it go before his friends turn him in to the cops for being a serial killer? And we live in an age, unfortunately, where serial killers are like a daily occurrence, practically. And I'm thinking, like, what? I mean, it takes the whole dumbitude, the dumminess of the song to such an incredibly unfathomable level. How is it possible that people become so incredibly complacent, listless, and lifeless that they would glom onto this, pay money for it, go to see a show with people like this and be like, I'm going to see Train, and buy their t-shirts and stuff. Oh man, it's just so horrible. Anyway, so you can get the bad taste out of your mouth with my replacement choice for Train, and it's the Flaming Lips. Okay, now this is not an obscure band. This is a band that's made, never had a big hit or nothing like that, but the people, people know who they are, and they've got a classic album that's, never did as well as Train for some unfortunate reason, but it's it's such a mellow, cool groove, and so many great tunes on it. It's called The Soft Bulletin. And like right from the opening notes of this thing, you're just immersed in this chill vibe of these people that just know and have a feel for what really drives impulses within people, and create a positive vibe and express yourself with a lot of deep and meaningful feelings. And it's just the opposite. Complete opposite, and it's not dumb. It's not made by dummies. It's not something that's like unapproachable or it's so intellectually obtuse and dense that people don't get it. But it's not just like 50 Ways to Kill Your Lover level of dumbing people down. I mean, it's just and it's a real sign that Train becomes this big giant band. And Flaming Lips kind of, has a career for themselves and everything like that, does okay for themselves, but it isn't like superstardom. Right? Flaming Lips. I mean, that role should be reversed, not just in terms of the quality of the music and the commitment to, authenticity or whatever you want to call it, whatever catchwords or phrases you want to put in there. It has to do with the whole idea of that Train is, making tons of money in a society. And what the nature of the society is that would, be a part of that would throw so much money and attention and radio spins and promotional money and all that to something that's that horrible and that infantile. While you've got the great bands like even the Replacements and stuff, or the Jam, or all kinds of different wonderfully expressive, powerful, tasty bands that could be in place of this just lame garbage. I mean, there's nothing of it should be. People should be looking at this stuff and going like, don't get it on me. Number 7, same as, this is interchangeable. This is another point of the whole puzzle here is Maroon 5. And you got that lead guy, that guy who's on with the TV show and everything like that, who's just such an incredible, emotionless poser. That it just becomes impossible to think like, why would anybody like this guy? Why would anybody invite this guy to be the star of a TV show? Is there no concern over quality or integrity anywhere in our mainstream media at all? Not even the slightest amount? Because if there is, you're not going to have this Maroon 5 guy, anywhere near a mainstream level of distribution. Tatted up the yin yang. And what the hell is it with all these tattoos, man? I'm an old-fashioned grandpa jerk-off, and I don't have any currency in terms of our cultural sort of malaise. But I do wonder where people get the money to turn their bodies into billboards. I guess they're so used to having logos force-fed to them as being cool. Like, oh man, you wear Nike, aren't you? And you're like, yeah, and you've got Reeboks. Wow, we're cool, aren't we cool? We've turned our bodies into billboards for with logos plastered all over our clothing and stuff. Is that where the deal is with tattoos? Is that taking the whole idea of logos being cool one step further by permanently disfiguring your skin with ink with some kind of esoteric message that means something to you? Is it supposed to mean anything to anybody else? Where's the Are these glory hounds? Are these people just trying to come up with something to do on their TikTok? Like, oh, I got a new tag on my TikTok. I don't know, man. It just totally escapes me why people spend money on that when there's so much hardship in the world, and so many different things that people need and are desperate for. I just don't get why people would be so self-indulgent. It just escapes me. And, it's probably me, but I wonder. And so you got Maroon 5. This is a band that I could not even listen to. I can't get. This is like, so this guy is just so evil, is venomous, toxic. Every time I look at him, I think like, how many fetuses did he suck all the juices out of when he got up in the morning? Did he have does look like a guy who would have a fetus smoothie. That Maroon 5 guy. Anyway, so I've got a replacement for them at number 7 on the worst all-time white bread bands. I've got Chibo Mato with the album Negative Type A. Now, Chibo Mato was, so immensely brilliant and expressive and fun and, sort of ebullient, joyful music. And listen to, especially easy, on their debut album, Negative Type A, where it's just song after song. It's chock full of just great, almost visionary, stylized music that is just such a fun listen, and fills you with energy and such a great vibe to it and positive. And these guys, they kind of they duffed around for a decade or so. but only came out with, I think, well, two really great albums. I think there was a third at some point, but they took huge gaps in between the albums. They actually even had, it was the first band, I think it was the first band, that Sean Ono Lennon was in. He played bass for them on tour. And he was great with them. Because they had this like really groovy drummer and like this open space and stuff, and a lot of it was a lot of the spaces were filled by like just drum and bass stuff. It was really heavy, and so a lot of that live stuff if you dig deep into the internet, you can find some of that stuff, and it's just kicking, just absolutely kicking. And that type of music, I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Can only be, I must be right about like systematically sucking us dry of everything that makes us, human beings, and using all the various different cultural mechanisms to like sort of socially engineer us and turn us into like sort of like, I don't know, people who would enjoy Maroon 5. I don't even get it, how it's even possible. And yet it happens. I mean, Chiba Motto had airplay and stuff, and they were popular for a limited time, but they're so much more profound and expressive and great, and their music is great, and they get, where are they now? I don't even know. In the meantime, a Maroon 5 guy sucks a couple of fetuses for breakfast, and he's off to do his super big, huge, mega TV show, and glare at people with the darkness in his soul, and ugh, gross. Anyway, number 6 of the top 10 worst white bread bands of all time, it's Foghat, right? One of the bands that they used to replace the original, super cool bands from the 60s. And they got rid of all the cool bands from the 60s and killed off everybody, or marginalized anybody who had any expressive. Back in those days, you'd hear about great bands getting signed, and then their albums would get put on the shelf and they would never get released and stuff like that. It was an intent to replace all of the most expressive people with a bunch of bands like Foghat. That had this, again, sort of like just like this cookie cutter suburbanite ethos. It's like the rock and roll version of the Leave It to Beaver TV show. It's just like, I'm Molly, I'm Beaver, I'm blah, ding, 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 dong, ding, ding. With all these shaking around with, it's almost like these maraca head people, where just they shake and they hear the little maraca seeds in the middle, whatever they use. Just shaking around inside their heads as they go. They have the same plot lines and the same pale-skinned, borderline albino whiteys paraded, all over the TV screens and everything like that. And I mean, the worst of it was Ozzy and Harriet. If you ever get a look, I don't know if you've ever heard of Ozzy and Harriet. If you're musician fans, you're drawn to that, you might remember, I almost said Ricky Martin. Ricky did Garden Party and stuff. They actually had a bunch of kind of small time hits. Ricky Nelson. That's the type of thing that, I mean, if you look at Harriet from Ozzy and Harriet, it's like looking into the face of the devil. I don't get it. How do people not see these things? It's got to be me. But I see a Harriet and I'm just like, just get it off the screen. Goddamn. What have I done? It's like you're in hell and you're watching the devil. It's same with the Maroon 5 guy. These people look diabolical. And the Harriet is the worst of them. You just look at her, it's like 10,000 times worse than the Wicked Witch of the West. And she's like on the screen going like, ew, let's do something to get rid of all the minorities out of the neighborhood. And I don't know how people live with that. How they didn't see it, how they didn't, turn and get reviled by it and just turned off by it. And yet they just sucked it up. Give me more Harriet. I want more Harriet. Give me the Harriet. And that's what Foghat is, right? Fool for the city. Oh, God, what are you kidding me? You mean fool for the township out in the outskirts of the city. Fool for the township on the outskirts of the city. Dun, 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 dun. And what was the other one? Slow ride, take it easy. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, really. Instead of, they replaced Sly and the Family Stone with Foghat. Sly and the Family Stone is doing like, stand, and there's riot going on. And don't call me expletive deleted, Whitey, running away. And all this just beautiful, liberated expressions of coming to grips with the inequities of the world and overcoming them with the power of music and soul. And that's what that band was all about. And they got, they coked that guy out of his gourd. And so, like, they get a couple of albums, one or two albums after their peak in the late 60s, culminating, I think, the final album that was really kind of turning people on in a big way was Fresh, I guess, with, just the absolute, the opening track on the album Fresh. I don't think I'm going to be able to remember. Do 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 do. And then the bass comes out with the funkiest riff in the history of everything. Swear to God, man, that Sly and the Family Stone album is absolutely just the greasiest riff ever. And the drums has just got, just absolutely grooving with this combination of funk and soul. Like nobody touched this opening track of that album Fresh. And it's just like, it had been one after the other. And then unfortunately, I don't know, he got coked out of his gourd, Sly, and then they replaced him with Foghat. Where they're doing slow ride, hey do, take it easy, take it easy, guys. I'll see you later. Take it easy. And they did that to everybody. Everybody. All music. So anyway, instead of getting Foghat, which I don't think anybody's getting Foghat anyway, at this juncture, I go, and again, I try to do these things as, I don't know if I've, what the lineage is when you might see these or when I'll premiere them or whatever. But I'm trying to keep some semblance of connectivity between the items on my list and what I'm suggesting as replacements. And here's a band that came in just a little bit before Foghat, maybe right around the same time. And it's a band that kind of, I think, people kind of are real dismissive of because they didn't have a lot of hits in the United States or any. And I think that the biggest song that has any recognition with people whatsoever was a cover version of one of their songs. And it's the band Slade. Now I'm going to prance color outside the lines a little bit. The album I'm going to recommend from Slade is a live album they did called Slade Alive, which is just a monster. I mean, just fat riffs, the crowd's going nuts, and it's just, it'll tear your face off, and it'll show your face back to you while it's laughing at you, your faceless ass. It's going to be laughing at your faceless ass That's how much that Slate Alive is going to wreck your ass. And you'll just be sitting there like going like, oh yeah, man, you won't care. You'd be like, oh man, my face got ripped off, man, but I don't care, man. It's such a groove, such a stone cold solid groove, man. And you'd be like, how come this stuff isn't like all over the frickin' place? Why do we live in a world where Foghat is everywhere, or was everywhere at some point? And this Slate Alive type of stuff is just like, I don't know. I'm having trouble comprehending it myself. I have no answers for you when it comes to the why-2s and wherefores of how the human race got screwed over so bad. My best guess is that, in 1952, the United States elected the head of the military to be the head of the civilian government, and the personage of Dwight Eisenhower with his river troll Richard Nixon in tow, and those guys brought in Prescott Bush and Harriman and all these closeted, sort of Nazi types and whatnot. And, because right after they got in power is when you start to see all this messed up purges going on, didn't you? The House Un-American Activities Committee and the payola scam that, they got Alan Freed with. And you start to get this, destruction of all the progenitors of rock and roll. The original rockers are all wiped out. And then, when, outside of their reach, the only reason why rock and roll made a comeback was because the Beatles were in England, outside of the reach of the American purge of rock and roll. And they didn't anticipate, they didn't get that far out in front of it. And then all of a sudden the Beatles hit, right after they were still probably busy mopping up for the JFK assassination, because it was only just a couple of months, that they appeared on Ed Sullivan's, like mid-February of 1964. And Kennedy was the end of November when they assassinated him. So they were probably just, got caught napping while they were busy, sort of eliminating all the material witnesses of the Kennedy assassination and covering it up with the Warren Commission, to pay attention to what the Beatles had to offer. And then bada bing, bada boom, Beatlemania became so big. And they were, as big as they were a boy band at first. And, singing about love and happiness and grooviness. And so they were kind of like thumbing their nose at people with all their press conferences and stuff and whatnot. But, it wasn't like they were prancing outside the lines and doing stuff like Sam Cooke, who they disposed of right quick when he started doing songs like, I was born by the river. It's been a long time coming. A change gonna come. When he starts doing that stuff, they dispose of him right quick. 5 seconds after that was some cockamamie story about him running naked through the parking lot of a motel. What's Sam Cooke get hit after hit? Number one hit is in the parking lot of some skeezer motel in a really downtrodden area, and some lady comes out of the booth and shoots him dead. No freaking way. And then it's just, rock and roll would have been dead as of 1960 if it hadn't been for England sneaking the Beatles over here in the wake of the JFK assassination cover-up. And then when it happened, they hadn't consolidated all they got rid of all the main rockers and stuff and killed them all off or ruined their careers and their vitality and whatnot, but they did not have time to consolidate all the record labels and radio stations and everything. And before you knew it, the Beatles were big, and then all these other bands kind of, all these smaller labels and whatnot were able to get a bunch of other, bands like the Byrds and the whole British invasion, and Dylan at the time, who was also kind of, finding his way, and the Beach Boys. I mean, it's just a lot. And they didn't have the mechanisms in place to be able to put a damper on all of those bands all at once. But you see, like by 1965, they're starting to pick them off like crazy, and they're, before you know it, it's all a bunch of dead people. So anyway, where was I? Oh, number 6. Jesus Christ, I got a lot of ways to go. Number 6 is the Foghat, and replace them with Slade Alive. Okay, got it? Very good. Number 5 of the most white bread bands of all, horrible, worst bands of all time, the Eagles. Of course, this list has got to have the Eagles. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, can you explain to me, and leave it in the comments or something like that, where I can figure out just for a freaking minute why anybody would like the Eagles? You're doing songs like Take It Easy, Take It Easy, okay? America, don't think about anything. Don't, get too worked up about anything. It's just a matter about the Vietnam War and the dying of all the political lefties and everything like that. As if some kind of purge is going on underneath, behind the scenes and whatnot. Don't even think, just take it easy. Take it easy. And, a whole bunch of stuff that's just just completely white bread, suburbanite nonsense. And none of it is emotive, none of it is exciting, none of it's anything worth getting enthusiastic over. They got 2 songs in the history of the Eagles that are worth a damn. Desperado's a pretty nice slow tune, whatever. And Hotel California is interesting, right? And, I guess they did that segment from, whose line is it anyway? What's the thing with the mainstream guys to the galaxy? Heart 42, Answer to the Universe, everything. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's the Eagles. They took some segment of some song that they did for 2 seconds. Anyway, you'd be better off, doing, instead of the Eagles, don't do that to yourself. Get Jeff Buckley's album, Grace. Listen to that thing. Let the power of pure creative instinct and emotive essence flow into your soul and recharge your batteries. Don't give any money to, there's hardly any of them left. I think Joe Walsh is around, but he's looking really weird and bad off. And this other guy is such a creep. I think it's Don Henley. It seems like such a bully. And I mean, don't give any money to those guys. Jeff Buckley is out there. That album is transcendent. It is. I got to hurry up here. I got to get through it. Number 4 is a tie. Oh my God, a tie. Between Fish, the band Fish, Phish, and Dave Matthews. Both of these bands, like Dave Matthews, I love to hate because the drummer, it's like he's playing in a different band. They have this music that's just like, like this completely trite and throwaway sort of mess. And it's pretty kind of chill and mellow and everything like that. And then they got the drummer of that band who thinks he's in like the most aggressive prog metal band, like he's playing for Iron Maiden or something, or Slayer. And he's like, and they got like, my song is a little ditty wabba dibba doo. White people singing it doesn't mean a thing. And the drummer's going the whole time. I'm like thinking, like, what a pile of garbage. Unlistenable. I mean, it shows to go how desperate people are to, sort of fill in that. They have these preconceived notions of things that people are supposed to, back in the 80s when the Reagan Revolution came, people had preconceived notions of, how they would, find some sort of center of gravity for themselves and wouldn't feel so lost and cast adrift. So they adopted all the old rubrics of the 50s, or they had, like, martinis. Everybody all of a sudden started drinking martinis and smoking cigars and everything like that. What do you think they were doing that for? Because they had no personality, no essence of their own. They had no direction. They had no... security within themselves, within their skin, to be able to come up with their own whatever they liked. So they're plopping out a bunch of babies, they're smoking a bunch of cigars, drinking a bunch of martinis, and singing praises of Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. And it's just a load of garbage. And they got, it's the same thing with jam bands in whatever this was, the 90s or 80s, and they listen to Fish, and they think, wow, those guys can actually play their way through, Pink Floyd's The Wall or some other piece of garbage. And people are like, wow, it's really great. Let's start to follow them around like Grateful Dead and Jer Bear. Jer Bear can't tour anymore. Let's follow Fish. Trey Anastasio is like the biggest sort of, he's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, except without the charm, from Ghostbusters. And Dave Matthews, I used to really be, totally indifferent really to Dave Matthews. Didn't like him, didn't enjoy him, and thought that it was sort of pretend music and stuff. But he's done a few things. Like he made some donations or something recently. I can't remember. Unfortunately, I didn't jot down the notes. But he did a couple of things that were actually really cool. And so, and plus he dumped, his tour bus dumped a bunch of turds and whatnot on top of a sightseeing boat tour in Chicago. And that sounds like a fun thing to do. Anyway, so instead of getting Fish or Dave Matthews, I would recommend the Mars Volta and pick up the album Bedlam and Goliath, which I think is one of the greatest albums of all time. It is like such an incredible riff fest of riff after riff after riff of just bombastic, heavy music. It's so deeply committed to virtuosity and intensity. I just fucking love it. Like thinking like, how could this stuff exist? How could this stuff exist in a world this drab that's had the soul sucked out of it for so long, and then this band comes along, Mars Volta, and creates this album that's just like, it's like Led Zeppelin on 10. Led Zeppelin can't touch Mars Volta. Nobody can touch Mars Volta. The most intense musical experience I've ever had before Mars Volta was Mahavishnu Orchestra when I first listened to their debut album, Inner Mounting Flame. And I'm listening to, and these guys are like ripping on 10 to warm up, and then, but Mars Volta blows those guys out of the sky. And Mars Volta is like so beyond everything that nobody can touch, especially this Bedlam and Goliath album. Swear to God, man, if you want to test whether or not you're a human being, you don't need to test your blood or do a little skin test or anything like that. Just to see if you're actually human still, pick up frickin' Bedlam and Goliath and listen to that album. And if you just your mind is blown by it, you're still human. If you're like, oh gosh, this is it's hurting my ears, then you're a dehumanized, mindless, obedient drone. And give it up, really. Just sort of like, just walk around in a circle or something until you drop dead. Not quite that bad, but hey, you know what I mean. Rotten bastards. All right, so now top 10 most white bread bands of all time. We're up to number 3. Get Bon Jovi. Okay, I went to see Bon Jovi. I got, not to say that I'm elitist or a snob or anything like that, but it could easily be mistaken for one in a dark room. But a friend of mine got free Bon Jovi tickets. I went to see him back in the peak. I think it was the Slippery and Wet tour. So he was at his peak, and we went, and we had okay seats and stuff like that. And he comes out, and he's prancing around like a total idiot on stage, like a classless child, like a 12-year-old would. And it was so bad, so pathetic that they had to augment it with explosions. But they had, it was like by song 2, they had like 10 explosions already. And me and my friend were like, this is horrible. The music is horrible. The explosions are annoying and silly. And so we walked out. We walked out after like 3 songs or something like that. What the hell are we doing? And it was free. Couldn't even stick around. Bon Jovi was one of the worst things I've ever done to myself. And the songs are just like, anything. It just has no meaning, has no guts, no gusto, no individuality, no uniqueness to it. It's just dried out milk toast again. Just like so many of these other bands. I suggest replacing them. And Bon Jovi only had a couple albums, so I'm trying to replace it with another band from the same era that only had a couple albums as well. And it's Living Colour. Living Colour was a badass bunch of guys, man, with real virtuosity and groove. Vernon Reid, their guitar player, amazingly virtuosic guitar player, really had a lot of heart and soul. Also, it wasn't just technical skills. This guy could play and make you feel what he was feeling, and that was the sort of the wheelhouse of the rest of the band. I mean, they weren't super or virtuosic or anything like that, but they're really, really good, and really knew where the groove was and how to get neck deep in the groove. And it was just a beautiful thing. I saw them in concert, and it was just great. And these guys were just really, and their albums were good. I'm recommending Vivid, which was their debut album, but there's some really great songs on the follow-up. I forget the title of it, but their second album has also got a lot of really good grooves on it. Type, I think, was one of the songs on the second album. It was really amazing. Just super funky and fat riffs. I'm not steering you wrong. Get out of the impulse to go buy the what they call the chalk in the betting business. Don't bet the chalk anymore. Enough with the chalk or the chalky people. Get out of the Bon Jovi. Get into some Living Colour, man. You won't be sorry. Claim your birthright as a human being and quit becoming some nauseating puppet. Number 2 of the top 10 worst, most white boy bands of all time, Bad Company. If I hear people like Bad Company and Free, which was like the sort of precursor to Bad Company with Paul Rogers' previous band of Bad Company, these guys are just white bread garbage. And they got, songs are just completely, it's like, it makes somebody like me want to drink lawn fertilizer or something. It's just, you listen to that stuff like, oh, right now and blah, blah, ready for love. And who cares what you want? I mean, you listen to this stuff, it's got no imagination, no creativity to it, no challenging intellectual aspects to it whatsoever, no real, intriguing musicianship. And people listen to this stuff, Bad Company, I just worry about them. I worry about whether or not they're going to stop breathing in the middle of the night. Their brain will just shut off because they've had a life that's so used to just sort of going through the motions. It's there's nothing to stimulate them to keep on going. Their body just has been abused. Their body and their minds have been abused for so long that they're just giving up the ghosts. I would like to actually open up a lot of those cases where people might have mistaken a widespread amount of deaths by ascribing it to what's that stuff with the breathing and the CPAP machines, with the snoring and the stuff, where they're mistaking that for people who are just listening to too much Bad Company. Sleep apnea. So instead of sleep apnea / Bad Company causing your brain to atrophy so much that you die in your sleep from the mechanical side of your brain ceasing to function or seizing up, I recommend you check out the Pixies. Because the Pixies, I don't know, I was trying to find a band that was sort of kind of grungy, like the Stones or something, that were, a little bit more emotive. I mean, it's really not much to be more emotive than Bad Company. Jesus Christ. These guys show up and Jabba-jabba-dee-doo. Uh, are you still awake out there, Chicago? Get the Pixies, okay? It's not the same type of music. I tried for a while. I couldn't do it. I don't have, you know, but the Pixies are great, and they've got very motive, very creative, great songs, everything like that. Everything's intense, especially on Surferosa, which is the album that I'm recommending. And there'll be probably a few things that you recognize, even though this band never made it into the mainstream. They had some jams that kind of trickled out and probably some movie soundtracks or whatever. Doolittle is probably the go-to album that most people will recommend to you. It's their other great album. They only had a couple of great albums. It was fairly short-lived. Their vitality when they were, on the top of their game, didn't last for a whole heck of a long time. But the Doolittle and Surferosa are just so, monumental albums with such a great groove and intensity and great songs and licks and memorable melodies. All the good stuff that somebody should really want out of music is really deeply expressed in both of those albums, just stay away from Bad Company at all costs. But the number one, here it is. Are you ready? The number one top 10 worst, most white bread bands of all time. The number one is Paul Simon. Paul Simon, don't you just hate him? Here's a guy who's got, literally nothing to talk about outside of one or two songs over a 60-year career. And he's got Sound of Silence, Bridge Over Troubled Water are the only two songs this guy's ever done that are really amazing. Out of 60 freaking years of being paid up the yin yang to sit there and write music. And he's got some other secondary tunes that are okay, occasionally. But, I've talked about this on another episode. The best of Simon and Garfunkel is it's full of garbage. The real irreplaceable part of Simon and Garfunkel was Garfunkel. I know there's I think it's a Family Guy joke or something that says that Garfunkel was the irreplaceable part. It's true. Garfunkel could have sang with anybody, and he can harmonize with crazy, impossible melodies with this most delicate, interesting, evocative, emotive voice that's just, it's like an angel on earth. And Paul Simon's just none of it makes any sense. It's like he's living in this outer space world. He's just taking his thesaurus. He's breezing through the thesaurus over and over again, jotting down a little line here. Oh yeah, Kodachrome gives you a nice van. Well, that'll be a good one. Yeah. Oh, okay. And 90% of the stuff that he's done is absolutely unlistenable. Horse hockey. And then he comes out with, those albums that revitalize his career. His solo career is hitting the skids. He does this album that's poorly received, One Trick Pony. He does a movie about it, and it's a dud. It's a flop. And it's looking like he's all washed up. And then he decides that he's going to cross the South African boycott, the apartheid boycott, and he's going to go to South Africa and he's going to co-opt the music of South Africa, throw a bunch of his silly nonsense lyrics, word salad garbage on top of it, and he's going to sell it his own stuff, and that's the album Graceland. And that brings him back from the dead. But it was, it was really just a horrible manifestation of a guy who would do anything, would cross lines over for apartheid in order to be able to salvage his career. And he would steal the music from those people and appropriate it for his own and sell it and make a ton of money. And then he kicked them all to the curb. And then he went down to South America and he did the same thing with South American people, but there just wasn't any apartheid in South America. And this was, I mean, apartheid was serious. Nobody was playing in Sun City. Everybody was boycotting South Africa for a long, long time. And Paul Simon was the guy who crossed over to do Graceland. And that's how he saved his career. And then so much garbage in between all that. And after that, it's just, and I don't get it. Why this guy, wasn't thrown out of the Hall of Fame for doing the apartheid thing. And why anybody thinks that this guy is worth a damn. He's got, I don't know, it's literally got like a half a dozen songs throughout that whole 60-year career that, are, sort of truly emotive and have any kind of like feeling or vibe to it. He says Robinson, blah, 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 Joe DeMine. What is it? What does it mean? It's got like a nice little jingly vibe to it or whatnot. And it became big because of the giant movie that it was attached to, played over and over again. And then on top, America's a real nice song. It's got a lot of nice vibes to it. But it's nothing compared to the version of it done by the prog rock band. Yes, it blows them away. Anyway. So replace the Paul Simon. Don't get any more Paul Simon. Replace that with, I got a tie for number one slot for the replacement of Paul Simon. Number one, Miles Davis album, Jack Johnson. If you have any inclination to listen to or support somebody like Paul Simon, you need to dig Miles Davis, Jack Johnson album. First of all, you need to know about Jack Johnson and what happened to that guy and just the scope of this guy's courage and talent and wildness, really. And Miles Davis, the album, it's sort of like an improv jazz fusion, but it's so nasty and greasy and everything that everybody should want music to really be about. And I just absolutely love it, man. It's got John McLaughlin, who's the guy from Mahavishnu Orchestra, playing guitar, and Billy Cobham playing drums. And these guys are locked, man, in this super nasty, funky groove. And Herbie Hancock shows up with like some kind of like Casio keyboard or something like that. Just absolutely freaking brilliant. It's just like, and then Miles is wailing over the top of it with all these groovy licks and stuff. It's just profound and great and wonderful, and can't get enough of it. And then it's the other angle to go with is to replace Paul Simon with a songwriter in crisis who came up with this album that's really deep and expressive. It was never a hit. Nobody ever listened to it. It was David Crosby's If I Could Only Remember My Name. And it is just a beautiful piece of art. It is. He just lost his girlfriend, and there was all this craziness. He'd gotten thrown out of the Birds, and he's trying to put together, it's like sort of right as or right before or something like that. I don't know the exact timing. Crosby, Stills, and Nash happened. And he does a solo album called If I Could Only Remember My Name that has just got so many cool like vibe moments in it. And he's got all the people from Laurel Canyon. It's also a testament to, all the hipsters and everything like that are all hip to the Laurel Canyon scene on the late 60s and early 70s, right before the Manson thing destroyed it all. And so you've got a lot of people like from Jefferson Airplane playing, hanging out and vibing with them and singing with them, and a bunch of other people from the Laurel Canyon scene who are sitting in on sessions for this album. And it's just, it's really heartfelt. And it's just great, man. And, if you're uh, inclined to listen to Paul Simon, I think, do yourself a favor and prance, color outside the lines a little bit and grab, this David Crosby solo album. Check it out, because I think there's a lot of vibe-oriented stuff with some good songwriting and licks and chops along the lines of what, some of the few tunes of Paul Simon that are okay or good. But it's something different and something unique. And there's something going on where it captures the spirit of that Laurel Canyon brief moment in time when everything seemed like it was going to be okay. And so that's it for, this is the longest episode I've ever done. And it's a lot of fun, though, for me. I don't know about you guys. And I know there's a lot of people out there who's going to get on my ass for all the things I said about all these rotten, milquetoast, garbagey, nobody bands and stuff. And, lay it in the comments to me. Hit me up with it, man. Or suggestions that you've got for replacements so other people, the comments are a great place for something like this, especially something that's sort of pushing buttons like I tend to do, where people can start to find, leave some suggestions for people of deep, emotionally evocative and, I don't know, spiritual, relatable stuff that just sort of even simple stuff, your own stuff. I don't know, turn us on to what you got going on in the comments, and then people can read through it and be like, if somebody agrees with, they say like, oh, I listened to that Crosby album, it's great, or I listened to that Jack Johnson album, it's great. Here's some other ones that are kind of similar to that, and check it out, and people can go down there and look, and they can, start to, build a nice catalog for themselves of stuff that's more expressive, so they can get out of the cycle that our overlords have put us in of relentless demonization. That's what it's all about, man. It's all about turning on. Anyway, before I go, I got a few with disclaimers stuff. Everything I've said here is opinions. A lot of it. I believe in all this stuff that I talked about, and I'm sorry if you're offended. Not sorry. My heart's in the right place, though. I want to see people have happier, more joyful lives, and I believe that music is one of the key, wonderful gifts that we've gotten in this world to be able to advance our mood and our optimism, and can change our energy and our lowest points. The right music, good music, something that connects with us, can change the trajectory of our day or our lives. Really can. I honestly believe that. That's why I did this. There's no other reason. I don't know where I'm going with my life. I think I could be on my last legs. I've sacrificed so much. I don't know what I've got left in the tank. But what I can say is that, all this stuff that I've said, all these things that I feel it's just channels through me. It's not something that I come up with on my own. It's just something you just quiet yourself and you listen, and the world will talk to you, and it will put you in a place where you can accept some kind of energy somehow that, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But what I can say is that those of you out there are offended and want to lash out at me, blah, 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 and, passively rechannel anger or damage that you might have from other parts of your life into me, hey, all I can tell you is that my life is horrible. And so if you want to add to that, if it makes you feel better, leave it in the comments. And I'll try to deal with it. But I'm in titanic amounts of physical pain all the time. Loneliness, regrets, full of betrayal. The reason why I appear to be happy is because, it's not, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's like chemical. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just lucky. It's, so much of life, everything that we get, it's not meritocracy. It's luck of the draw. Why does one person get born into like a family of people that cares about who they are, and another person gets born into a crack house? It doesn't have any rhyme or reason. There's It makes you wonder what the hell is really going on. Is there a plan or whatever? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that some things that we have, the energies and things like we have nothing to do with. It's bestowed upon us. It's just like it's there. It's intrinsically nature versus nurture, and some of it is nature. A lot of it is nature. Most of it is nature, I think. And people will say, pick yourself up by your boot heels and get yourself together, buddy. And you're like, well, some people have the energy to be able to do that. Some people have the focus. Some people have the resilience to be able to overcome obstacles and think and see obstacles as opportunities. But not everybody's got that, that's luck. A lot of that is luck. A lot of it is, how you respond to those troubles and whether or not you've got the support system or enough horse sense or enough ingenuity or get up and go, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is. But I'm able to keep laughing through all the difficulties somehow and keep pushing forward. But anyway, hit me up with a comment if you've been inspired or you feel creative. Join my Patreon. Leave a tip. Would be great, because my physical ailments threaten my life to being almost unsurvivable. And so why not click a like button, subscribe for me, you filthy animal, and let's try to get through this mess together.